All right, Ricardo, thanks so much for being on the Friends with Wheels podcast. I appreciate it. First off, if you could tell the audience a little bit about your background and what you do now, that'd be great.
So first of all, hi, Lazio. That's
La
how you
Laszlo, yeah, Laszlo.
Laszlo.
Mhm.
Laszlo. Okay, well, nice meeting you as well. Thanks for reaching out. I'll jump right into the a little bit of my background. I'll try to keep it succinct and not go too down too many rabbit holes. But uh, how did you find me first of all? Like it was on Google or somebody
I think I found you because you were I saw a clip of you and you were with a group of people on some sort of reality show about disabled individuals or something. I don't know.
talking about Push?
Push, yeah, that's right. Push.
Yeah, yeah. We did that show. Couple of seasons, a few. We finished a couple years ago now. But okay, so that's where you find, and then you went to my website, I guess, because you sent the form through the website, or
Yeah, it's through the website exactly. So
okay, cool.
now that you mentioned Push, could you talk a little bit about, what made you want to get on that show?
Yeah, sure. I'll start by just giving a bit of background, I guess. Like, I'm sure, like, you're, want to understand a little bit of my journey, and then I'll tell you how Push came to be.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from Italy. I moved here to Canada, Alberta, Canada, about 9 years ago, just over 9 years, and basically, I came here with as a. I just finished my studies back home. I did a master's in piano performance. I did a bachelor in environmental sciences. And then I was 23 at the time. I decided to come to Canada, right? Not really knowing what to do. I knew I wanted to keep doing some studies, but looking for a job, et cetera, right? Just a couple of years after, I moved to Canada. So this is I came 2017, and 2019 I suffered a spinal cord injury. Since this podcast is like kind of also disability related, not that it matters, and that's always my kind of angle on all of these because I've been asked many times, like in my story, of course it's tied with my disability, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, we're just people. I say it all the time, like I'm just a dude sitting down, and that's the truth. I can do whatever I can do. Like everybody use their skill set, use whatever they have. I use my wheelchair not just to wheel around, but also as a marketing tool if you want. It is very much, right? So, it's been a journey since that, and it was just a couple of years after I moved to Canada. So you can imagine this newcomer learning the language. I was just enrolled in a master's in forestry at the University of Alberta here in Alberta, in Edmonton, and then I just suffered a spinal cord injury. So all of a sudden, like disability was part of my life. Do you have CP?
Yeah, I have cerebral palsy, yes.
Yeah.
I was
So
born with it,
so
so
yeah.
yeah.
So you have been dealing with that forever, and since you were born, basically. And for me, it was like a sudden change at 25-year old, right? So it changes a little bit of like I guess the psychological approach to disability, but at the end, right now, we are on similar boats. We just have perhaps different level of abilities. Every single disability is different, so whatever it is, not ability in sense like I'm talking about impairments, right? That comes with
Right.
any injury, because then you're running a podcast. I don't. You know what I mean? Like it's just everyone does his own thing. But yeah, like I guess since then there is a whole carousel of things I've been doing, including I guess Resonate. If you've seen maybe on my website, as I completed a master's. I've studied a lot of piano back home, and I was performing. I was doing a lot of that stuff, and all of a sudden, after my injury, I had to reinvent my life completely. And one of these aspects was regaining my ability to play the piano out there in the world. I was looking for a product or something for me to be able to access the piano pedals. My hands are still, I have functionality in my hands because my spinal cord injury is at a thoracic level. So I retain my hand function. But now all of a sudden my feet were not working and I couldn't press piano pedals anymore, meaning that I cannot play the piano because the majority of music, especially classical music, which is what I studied, it really requires the use of the sustain pedal, the right pedal, right on the piano. So nothing was out there for me to just regain that ability because no product was available. So I simply decided to build one. I designed one, built one, and now it's commercially available. for anybody who wants it, they can simply buy it and we will ship it to you. Because I really feel the pain point of that. I understand what it is to lose that ability. And if anybody now has a spinal cord injury and was previously playing the piano, they can simply reach out, go on a website, buy one. We also, blah blah blah, and we will ship it. So they don't have to go through the whole struggle of building one. It took years to get to something functional. And I can go on and on. I've done a few things since my injury, so push is one of them. Since you asked that, and there's really not much of a story of how that happened. I was not looking for any show, be part of any show. I was not actively looking. That kind of fell into my lap, and they found me. They were pitching a documentary initially to one of the cast of Push, and that pitch then quickly from a single 20 minutes documentary quickly stemmed through in let's involve more individual, not just one person for this documentary. Let's do a series. And from there, I was selected among other fellows because they had a pool of people that they were like interviewing and calling and going for doing some initial demo video and kind of interviewing. And they narrowed it down to the seven initial you know cast members of Push, and I was one of them, and mainly because I guess I'm Italian and I am an immigrant and I was doing a bunch of things, including Resonate. I started my own another company before Resonate. I'm doing indoor farming here in Edmonton. We supply restaurants and you can check it out. The Strathcona Microgreens is it's my main business right now, and which is started, as I said, before Resonate. So I was doing all these bunch of things, and I was teaching piano at the time, and they found that interesting enough to just decided to make me part of the show. So there was enough to say about me. Let's put it that way. And so
Mhm.
that's how Push happened. It was like I'd never been in a show. I'd never been in front of a camera at the time, and I was like, sure, let's do it. I don't really care much about it, but why not? And then they from there he went to CBC, so he went to national television, and that creates some traction. Then we did season two, blah blah. And since then, I've been part of other reality shows and many documentaries, a few documentaries. I wouldn't say many, and blah blah blah. From there, a few other things happening to that industry. But again, not because I'm actively looking for it. It's mostly people reaching out, like you did, and they say, "Hey, we want to do this with you." And you say, "Sure."
Yeah,
It's always
yeah,
good. I mean, I got used to it now, but it's just how it
hmm
is.
yeah, yeah. What I wanted to ask further about Push. What was it like to sort of, okay, you're cast and everything. Now you're on the show. What was it like to actually experience it with folks with similar disabilities or different types of disabilities? What was your experience like being on the show?
Well, uh, it was a bit of an experience in a sense that all of the people in the show itself, they're portrayed like this close group of friends that we were already from before, blah blah blah. But to some degree that was true, but not for sure across all members with that level of tightness that they were showing in the show. We became closer through the show because then we got to know each other a little better, and we were forced into the same environment and to do the same things and going through the same experience. Consider filming for each season lasted about 6 months. So they've been filming for 6 months, not just like it was not like a week. It was a 6 months of filming across whatever each cast member was doing, and oftentimes we were put together. So we were, something was also you know fabricated if you want for creating certain storylines, etc. Everything was kind of faithful to the dynamic of each individual, but sometimes in order to portray for a show at the end is a product, certain dynamics we were forced into certain constructed, fabricated dynamics there. But overall it was a great experience, honestly. Like it just I can't complain about it. It came as a surprise. And I mean, the people in the show were definitely personalities, all of them, each one. So there was a lot of behind the scenes and stuff happening and drama and fun. New friendship built like with Brian and other people, and it's just at the end it was a interesting dynamic that you know
Mm-hmm. And have
I'm
you
good
kept
now. I would do it again. I would say if I had if with the knowledge I have, they would were to ask me to do it initially, I would do it. It was a good experience overall, but I would do more now, probably not. I'm not sure I was good enough at that point.
yeah.
Just give me
Um
a second. Let me close the door. Yes.
okay. Yeah, have you kept in touch with people that were on the show or kept in
Yeah.
touch with them?
Yes, a few of them, not all of them. Fortunately, one of them that passed last November. So that was a big hit for everybody, but so with some of them, definitely, yeah. Not all of them. As I said, we were not close friends with. I was friends with some of them from before the show. I knew some of them, and those are the one that I kept in touch with mostly, right?
Yeah. So, n push aside, what other things are you doing, outside of the show? Are you involved in any sort of advocacy groups, disability advocacy groups, spinal cord injury groups, or what's that like?
Um, well, I was to some degree more involved in few until a few years ago. Lately, I have not been part of any non-for-profit or actively, involved in organization or as such. But I do, I am asked to participate some every year into some sort of like, public speaking gig where, I bring some, disability awareness for employment or even for spinal cord injury Alberta, I've done um, you know they asked me to talk last year, which was great, and it could be that I go back this year as well to talk a little bit about my perspective of running a business, how to cope with the disability. In my case, once you're suffering a spinal cord injury and how to deal with that. It's definitely a journey at the beginning to just psychologically, come out of the trauma that comes with the loss, right? Of of what you used to have maybe until the day before, right? Right after your spinal cord injury, it's just a big shift, and your whole identity needs to adapt to the new one that to some degree affects every single aspect of your life. So kind of understanding what disability is, kind of normalizing it in your brain first of all, because you as an able-bodied individual initially, I didn't even think about disability. Like it was not in my mind. I didn't know anything about it. So all of a sudden, I have a disability, and the biggest trauma was to actually normalize that in my mind, to see myself and eventually not see yourself as much because I don't feel disabled. Like sometimes I have the challenges coming from whatever I have to do, but it's not that I think, oh, I have disability, blah blah blah. I just do my shit and that's it. Like like everybody, and it's not that I don't notice it. But that came with time and some work into and a lot of action at the end to see that life was actually fine and I was enjoying everything and with the challenges that each one has, and mine was these were the cards I been dealt, and this is what I'm playing with, right? So that took a little bit, but you know, I hope that answered the question. Maybe I went down a
Yeah,
bit of
no, no, it's a good point because oftentimes my dad said this to me one time, and he said when it comes to a disability, not only do you have to be strong here, but up here, your brain right here mentally. So that's
yeah,
something.
yeah, for sure, and you know, if you overcome that mental challenge, for sure, then you have a different type of resiliency of if you want to challenges and problem solving stuff that you have to deal with on a daily basis becomes your norm, so you kind of don't notice them because they are normal, but for anybody else could be like a huge deal, so that gives you some sort of advantage if you want, if you see it on the positive side, right? With the downside that comes with it, then there's always, if you know how to look, some sort of like upside and positive, and restructure it mentally so that you can even if it's a simple coping mechanism, fine by me. Like whatever, I don't overanalyze it as long as I am active and happy and I build my life like anybody would do. And you know, you take care of your people. You're if I'm using coping mechanism to do that, fine by me. Who cares? You know, if it works, it
Hmm.
works.
Yeah. My next question is there anything that you learned in the disability advocacy space that you sort of t taken away, or like you can also even sprinkle in what you've learned during your time on Push, if that works. But
Well, more push, as I said, this is an experience that was more of an experience of seeing how the film industry work and all of that, how the filming, the post editing, how they, you know, that was the interesting part. Other than that, like it was just meeting new people and doing your thing as they were. But in terms of like what I've learned about advocacy, I think what the disability community misses is a non-apologetic, non-complaining approach to life and to people. Like I find very frustrating as a disabled people. I find disabled people frustrating. As a disabled person, I find them frustrating oftentimes because they're just they fine you have the challenges that you have that nobody deserves. Like I would wish nobody a disability. That's just it's obvious. But if you have it and it happens to come into your life, then that mindset is just not helpful for anybody. You in the first place, for advocacy reason, because if you approach people negatively and you're not useful yourself, in the degree you can, you know, you don't have to be whoever useful, but you have to be you useful at your max capacity, and that's what you should focus on with whatever ability. And nowadays with technology, AI, and you know, digital work, blah blah blah, there is some degree of opportunity and some degree of usefulness that each single individual can reach, and there's going to be more and more, no matter what your disability or level of impairment is. There is always something that you can do, even and I cannot talk for everybody. Like each disability is different, but in large, I think this can be applied. And then there's always the specific cases that you know you need to really see, like if there is there's always exception, but in large, if you want to generalize a little bit, I find too much complaining people complaining too much in general. Like it just stop it. I don't want to hear it. Just do your thing, and then we can talk about it. Like you know what I mean? And that's damaging also for the perception that um, the general population or the society has towards disabled people, which is also hindering the possibility of more opportunity, more openness, less, you know, minority discrimination, if you want, that, you know, barriers to entry, equality of opportunity, all of this stuff. Yes, the responsibility is on the side of society, but it's a lot also on the side of the disabled individual to approach matters without that, you know, entitled behavior that's not required.
yeah,
If
I'm
that
glad
makes
that,
sense.
yeah, it makes sense. I'm glad that you're mentioning this point because I read a book about a year or two ago called Sitting Pretty by Rebecca Taussig, and she talks about exactly the same things that you're saying about sort of the way society looks at disabled people, how it's structured, and what can people do to make things more accessible for people with disabilities.
Yeah. And the honest answer, if you want to have more, if you want to have that built for you, the world built a little more with that accessibility in mind, as long as, and we came a long way, as long as there is like a not barrier to access certain places, for example, like if you don't have a ramp, you don't have an elevator, those are simple things that now they're not really anymore as much of a problem, at least in Canada. Like there are many places. I come from Italy. I understand what it means not to have accessibility in the environment you live in. So I understand that. But here in Canada, really, there is it's more the exception than the rule that that's the case. So once you have these basic, you know, elements, then there is not really much that you cannot do. It's very minimal. And to improve that, to improve that, access, it's literally just roll your sleeves up, get to work, and show that you're needed. Because if you bring value and you're needed and you're useful for everybody, then you see how they're gonna open the doors for you. It doesn't matter if you're useful and you're needed, and you're contributing. Then that's what is gonna change. Because then it's gonna be it is an easier sell to like, hey, make this for me because look what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
If we're saying, hey, make this for me because that's my right, even if it's true, let's say, right? You have human rights, certain things that needs to change. Mobility aids, affordable stuff like catheterization for people that do that. It needs to be affordable, and they need to not be weighing on people's pockets, and like basic keeping the person alive type of things. I think that's some sort of a human right if we are in a society that's a modern society. At this point, that's kind of not a given, but it should be something that uh, not to we don't need to fight too much for it. But other than that, just then do something with it, because otherwise you need to do something with yourself.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I'd like to end on this question. What can be done to sort of not only create a more accessible world, but one that's more sort of welcoming and inclusive for people with all types of disabilities, because not just physical disabilities. People
Yeah.
also have invisible disabilities, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, you name it. So what can be done in that regard?
Well, everything starts by knowing yourself. So the answer is never out. The answer is inside, in my opinion.
Hmm.
You have to start by knowing yourself. And you have to start by knowing what your skills are and what your you know, barriers are, which we all have. And this is unrelated to disability. And once you know your skills, then you leverage those. And that's it. Like, you should not focus on changing outside. You should focus on understanding, being self-aware, understanding, and being real about it, even if it's painful. Okay, it sucks that I cannot walk. It sucks I cannot do certain things anymore. And each one has their own list. You're gonna have yours. People with speech delay will have them. There's like, I understand there's different levels of challenges, right? And
Hmm.
I feel lucky simply because of my hand function. But it doesn't mean that somebody who has tetraplegia is unlucky. You know what I mean? Like, they might
Yeah.
have their. It's not a comparison thing. I feel lucky for that element, and I'm using it, right? Like, if I don't know what I would do, and I cannot speak because I don't have that experience. But as a mindset, I think it's a very useful one. If I didn't have hand function, I would spend all my time that I had for work on my computer.
Yeah, exactly.
I would
It's like,
educate myself if I had the mental capacity. I would do as much as I can to just like use the tool that I still have. If I have, a mental disability, like some sort of brain injury that, whatever makes you incapable of doing certain complicated calculation tasks or whatever it has to be, then you can find positions that are more, like if you're I live, my partner, she has a daughter with cerebral palsy. That's how we came to meet. And she's beautiful. She has speech delay. She has spasticity. She uses a power chair. She's beautiful, and she has a very natural, open, joyful spirit, which just that's a skill she has. She's very joyful, and people notice that and appreciate that. So she is very good at welcoming people. Very good. Like, I cannot do what she does. So she welcomes people to places, and she gives that value to somebody entering a business, that, even if it's like whatever it is, that's something she can do. And if you see it like, well, that's pitying because she's disabled and she's doing something, bullshit. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like, just
yeah.
like, stop that crap from your brain. Like, it just Then just don't do it and just but don't cry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. The point that you said, where like oftentimes we tend to disabled people tend to compare themselves, like, oh, I wish I had this job. Oh, I was in this relationship. Oh, I wish I did this. And that's never a good rest. That's never good. Never a good way to think that way, you know?
Yeah. And we all have to work with whatever we have. Like, we all have our own look, intellectual capacity, physical capacity, but we can all come out with something. And I always make the example, think of Stephen Hawkins,
Hmm.
right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I
Oh,
always come with that at the end because look at that. That's the far end extreme of physical capability.
hmm.
He wrote books, he changed history, he made space access way more, he pushed humanity forward with that one letter at a time through looking at a screen. Just, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing
So
things
that
that he did. Yeah.
if you
Hmm.
compare to that, and he's going through his like everybody knows him, not because he's disabled, because he's Stephen Hawkins, right? Like that's at that point, it doesn't nobody care anymore. So uh, that's an extreme. That's like an impressive human that comes once every 100 years, if not more, right? And but that's a reality that happens. It's real. It's true. It's not a lie. And we can all aim towards that limit of extreme of if you want contribution, but we are all falling within that degree.
Yeah.
And whatever degree you're falling to, just make sure that you're doing your best within your skill set.
Yeah, I would also put Judy Human in that same category. She
Correct.
was a very a main pillar in the disability advocacy space.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that's what I would say.
Yeah.
That's what, right?
Hmm. Okay. All righty. Okie dokie.